Okay, welcome everyone. Ananya, Shabhan, Vaishnavi, Trisha, Smahi, Shiv. Um, Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Mindset webinar with Professor Peter Bryant. I would request you all, got to let you in a few minutes early so that we can have some healthy banter going on. Would love for you guys to switch on your cameras if you can for just a few minutes. And then, of course, once Professor starts with his presentation, you can switch it off again and just sort of relax and be in your seats. But till that time, for the people who are here, good to see some familiar faces. Good to see Kabir, Ismahi, Ananya. Good to see you all, Trisha. Before we begin, guys, hi Shiv. Would love to know and as to why you're really here. Of course, you're here to learn about the entrepreneurial mindset, but so that Professor Peter Bryant sort of also has some context, would love to hear from any of you. Feel free to unmute and I'll come, or raise your hand, I'll come to you as to why do you feel, what do you really plan to take away? You know, one thing that you plan to take away from this session. We'll start with Smahi and then Kabir. Smahi, go ahead.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Mahi, as you all know. I think one reason why I felt the need to attend such a session is because, when you have raw ideas as a child or as a youthful entrepreneur, you need to have a sort of base or some type of, conceptualization that you can, equip from someone else. So I think that knowledge from already someone who has like that type of sophistication, that would be very helpful for our, future assets and all that stuff. So I think that session or this session is very important for me for that reason.
Awesome. Thank you, Smai. And hopefully we will cover a lot of this and get you some cool, ideas and sort of frameworks to work with. Over to Kabir.
Yeah, so I'm Kabir, and what I think was the need to attend this session was many people like have ideas or want to open a business, but having that kind of a train of thought is also important. So you should have a mindset that you're willing to take the risk of opening a business, and also if you have what it takes to run a business. So you need to look what's inside you if you have the potential to open a business, and that's how you have to change your thought process.
Okay. Thank you, Kabir, for your comments. Again, whoever's joining us right now, would love for you guys to please switch on your cameras. It's always nice for us also, so that we are not talking to a blank screen. But for the people who have their cameras on, thank you so much. Trisha, what about you?
Hi everyone. I think the reason I chose to join this webinar was to kind of understand how to take ideas and actually make them a reality, or how to move forward from just having ideas. And yeah, that's basically why I joined.
Okay, awesome. And I would love to tell you guys that we have another entrepreneurship webinar towards the end of next month. So do make sure that you come in there. That's about generating a lot of cool ideas. Today is, of course, the first step on the mindset. Really, what do you really need to do to get to those ideation stage? And then later on, of course, you can talk about some great ideas as well. We'll take one more comment. What about Ananya?
Right. So hi everyone, I'm Ananya. And basically I chose to join this session because I have heard different aspects of entrepreneurship. So I've always been interested, but I really wanted to know what it takes to actually be an entrepreneur. So I think to understand the foundation, I've joined this session.
Awesome guys. Great to have you all. Thank you for taking the time out. I know how difficult it is. You've just sort of got done with one semester, sort of academic year. Before you start sort of the new one, you are taking sort of that extra time to be here. So we are going to be mindful in respect of your time. Now, finally, I would love to welcome Professor Peter Bryant, who's a professor at IE Business School, one of the top business schools around the world. I've had a lot of friends who've graduated from IE, and are doing wonderful things. Professor, over to you. Would love to have a short introduction about yourself, and then we can begin with the presentation.
Thank you, Rishi, and thanks everybody. It's great to meet you. And you've asked some great questions. I hope we're going to get to those. We will get to those, and I'm also keen to hear other questions and comments as we go. So this is going to be, I hope, a very interactive session. So that's great. I'm going to share my presentation screen with you, and I hope that. There we go. So I'm assuming you all see that now, and we can get going. Great. I'm also going to be, I'm going to have chat open throughout. So I'll keep looking at the chat, and so will Rishi and the team. And also I'm going to sometimes invite you to also comment. We're a bit of a large group, so we won't all get a chance, but we'll try to make sure that we can really talk to each other and interact. So let's get going. Okay. So it's developing an entrepreneurial mindset, and a number of you have asked some really good questions about that, about what it means, and I'm going to talk about that. And as for me, well, a little bit about me, not much, but I'm, as Rishi said, I've been a professor at IE Business School, which is, and this is, what you're looking at is the new IE building in Madrid. So that large building there is all IE. Most of it is IE, and it's part of the new IE campus where undergraduates are studying. So that's a little bit of, IE is a very innovative place, a very entrepreneurial school. I've been very fortunate to be there and to work with many great colleagues and great students. Many of them from India and your part of the world. But enough about me. So we're talking about mindset. So what is a mindset? And I'll ask you to just maybe in this one, you could just put something in chat, if you're interested. What's a mindset? Anybody got any ideas? What does that word mean? You can just write a word or two in chat and send it to us all, and we can see what you think. What is a mindset? A perspective, right? A way we approach something. The way your mind thinks, a way of thinking. Ideals, yes. Yes, our perspectives. Principles, yes. The way we perceive as well, because it all shapes the way we see the world. The way we look at people. These are all, you're absolutely right. And so mindset is it's a very important concept. And you may have heard of concepts like the growth mindset and other kinds of mindsets, because it summarizes the beliefs, the values, the assumptions, the attitudes that we may have when we think about something, whether it's other people or the world. And it's also about, it helps us in ideation, yes. And so the mindset is a very important concept, and also with entrepreneurship. And the reason is that we have to make sure that if we want to be entrepreneurial, then we have to try and cultivate a mindset, a set of assumptions, ideas, perceptions, an outlook, a set of values, which is going to be friendly to entrepreneurship. So let's think about some examples. Now, I've got a few people here. Does anybody recognize this gentleman? And again, once again, you might put it in chat. Does anybody? I'll give you a second. Yes, that's right. That's right, Niharika. This is one of India's very famous entrepreneurs, Narayana Murthy, who was the founder and is still, I think, the president of Infosys. So he's been a very successful. He started the company. Okay. So what makes him entrepreneurial then? And again, maybe we'll just take lots of ideas in chat. maybe one or two words. What makes him an entrepreneur? What's entrepreneurial about Narayan? We know he started a company. What else? Any ideas? He solved a big problem. Yes. He solved a lot of, and he's helping other people solve problems. Very focused. That's a great word, Ananya, courage. Someone who, and he took a risk, innovative, took a risk, started this company years ago at the beginning of the IT revolution, and has grown it, as you know, to be one of the great IT service companies in the world. Yes, resilience, yes. So all of these things, creative, inventive, risk-taking, resilient, solving problems, these are all great things to talk about when you're talking about entrepreneurs. Now here's somebody else. Who's that? Anybody know who that is? Oprah, yes, of course, that's Oprah. Oprah Winfrey. Would you call her entrepreneur? Yes? No? Different? Yeah? Very different. I think she is an entrepreneur. Why? Because she's inventive. She's courageous. She's innovative. She created a very large movement. She's also very rich. It wasn't a company, although she's got a book company and a few other things, but she was one of the first people to do what she did. She's what I'll call a cultural entrepreneur. In effect, she almost started a movement of people. Different kind of entrepreneur. And a very successful one, and a very important one. But very different, yeah? Very different. Now, does anybody know who this is? Maybe not. I'll give it 1 or 2 more seconds in chat. Okay. Let me tell you. Thank you, Rishi. Yes, yes, Siddharth, you're right. It's Muhammad Yunus. Yes. Would one of you like to unmute? Rishi, would you like to unmute and tell us, or maybe not, no, Siddharth, would you like to unmute and say what you know about Muhammad Yunus?
Yeah, so he was a social entrepreneur based in Bangladesh, I think, and he was the person who started the movement of Grameen banks, and which is basically lending money to people in poverty at a very low or non-interest rate. So, and this is entirely based on the concept that they're reliable.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Thank you. That's perfect. And he is an entrepreneur in many ways because he started this bank, but he really invented what we call microfinance, which is what you just said, Scott, lending small amounts of money, often to quite poor people, allowing them to establish their own business and become independent. That industry, microfinance, which he began, is now a huge global industry, which has helped a lot of people. And as you may know, Siddharth and Rishi, for this work, he won the Nobel Peace Prize a few years ago. And that's a very different entrepreneur because he started a movement that was helping other people to become rich. It was a social form of entrepreneurship. He did not become very rich himself. He's still not a rich person. He helped other people become successful. And so he's a different kind of entrepreneur, what we call a social entrepreneur. So we've got some different entrepreneurs here. We've got someone who created a very large company, Infosys. We've got Oprah, who created a cultural movement. We've got Muhammad, who created a social movement for other people. Now, I assume we all know who this is. This is Albert Einstein, a great physicist. Would you call him an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
What do you think? Yes? Why? Feel free to say. Innovative?
He was also very innovative, inventive, and he came up with an amazing idea of many different type of things. And like yeah, he's made some amazing inventions for us.
That's true. Thank you very much. Innovative, creative. He was a world citizen. And in fact, so an amazing, but a very different kind of creativity, isn't it? He didn't create a company. He didn't create a movement. And yet out of his work have grown so many wonderful innovations and inventions and insights. Now he's sort of entrepreneurial, but it's not normal. It's not the normal kind of entrepreneur we think about. Maybe you're right, Smahi. He's like an indirect entrepreneur. Yes. And that's why I asked you, is he an entrepreneur? Because some people might say yes, and some people might say no.
Okay, sorry. Is it just for me or for you guys as well? Professor Bryant has sort of dropped off.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna just give him a few seconds and let's see. Hopefully, get back. Hey, Professor Bryant.
Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes.
For some reason, I dropped out there very briefly. I apologize. I'm not sure why, but here we are. We're back again. Okay. So entrepreneurial, creative, and exploratory, yes. Also seeking new opportunities. Again, and this can apply to many different fields. Embraces uncertainty and risk, and a number of people spoke about that. Entrepreneurs do that. They like to think about risk. Now, one thing that is very interesting about many entrepreneurs is that they also organize for action. Now, this was true in Infosys. It was true for Muhammad Yunus. It was true for Oprah, who organized a lot of things. Maybe Einstein, this is why Einstein is a bit more of an indirect entrepreneur, because he didn't really organize anything himself, but he helped other people to do that. But these are the core aspects of the entrepreneurial mindset. Now, what I'd like to do is look at this list. Fresh ideas, creative, looks for opportunities, is happy to take a risk, and is looking to do something. Okay? So here's a quick poll. How entrepreneurial is your mindset today? And I'm going to ask Rishi, and this is confidential. You can just, we'll just see some numbers. So how entrepreneurial are you today? Just put your answer in there. And are you not very entrepreneurial? A bit, somewhat, or very? Okay, we'll give it a couple of more seconds. Any answer is fine. It's whatever you think. Okay. Any more? Anybody else? Okay. I think we might finish it now. Okay, let's have a look. So now you can see the results. So this is very interesting. Nobody says that they are not entrepreneurial out of the answers we received. That's encouraging, isn't it? Most of you, 80%, are saying, I'm a bit entrepreneurial in some way. Okay. And a few of you are very entrepreneurial today. And so a little bit entrepreneurial. That's great. Good to know. Thank you very much. So that means we've all got some work to do. In fact, I do too. We can all continue to develop in these ways. Okay, so when I think about entrepreneurship, and I think about why do we think about it today? What is it that is making us think more and more about mindset and entrepreneurship? We do it in universities, at school, in college, in society. Why? I think it's because we are living in a world that is changing very fast. We all know that very well. Technology, for a start, the digital revolution continues. And that's just one aspect of change. We have so many other things that are going on in our world, in the environment, in health. So there's a lot of change going on. And change means we must respond in, and often in, new ways. And so we need to be more creative, more innovative. We need to be doing things differently and doing things that are innovative because of the nature of change, both the opportunities and the problems that it presents to us. And I think this is one reason why a lot of us think more and more about entrepreneurship. And when I think about these problems, I love this line. This is one of my favorite things, this line. Now, when I think about entrepreneurship and I think about the entrepreneurial mindset, I often look at this line. Can anybody want to raise your hand, and you can unmute if you wish and say, why do you think I like this line when I think about entrepreneurship? Anybody got it? Smahi, please, what do you think?
So when I first saw this line, the first impression I got was like, oh, I see this, up, downhill type of thing going on, this scaling going on, and in between there's this whole cluster of ideas that just get merged and intersect, in their own ways. So when we think about an entrepreneurial mindset, we're basically asking ourselves to think of something new, fresh, innovative, and engaging for our audience or whoever is going to be using it. So when we look at this line, we see there are like loopholes we look at, and then we look at advantages, cons, pros. We also see how much scope that idea has, and that's how this line comes into shape, and that's how our mind kind of evolves over time.
Great, thank you. I see a few more hands, so we'll take a couple of more. Rihanna, do you want to make a comment?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mahi.
So when I first saw this, I thought of the fact that when we think of ideas, when we have an entrepreneurial mindset, it's at first it's a little messy. So the clump of lines show that at first it's a little messy, it's cloggy, and when we start thinking about it, organizing it, taking action, it goes less messy. It starts becoming simpler to understand, simpler to think about, and eventually it becomes into a squiggly, like somewhat straight line but still curvy, which shows that we're on the right path and we're moving ahead.
Yeah, you're both reading my mind very well. These are the things that I think about. And I see Siddharth's got a hand up too. So another quick comment from Siddharth. What do you think?
Yeah, in addition to the ideas, it's also, I think, representative of the entrepreneurial journey, I could say. So it's starting with a very squiggly, the journey is very messy, it's very volatile, and slowly it gets stabled out when you realize how to manage your entire company and initiative.
Great, thank you. Excellent observations. Great. You're right. This is why I like the line. Now, let me say a little bit more about this line, why I like it, because as you said, the line starts when things are very messy and complicated, and we, over time we work out almost. Okay. And that is often the way we solve problems. That's great. And so I think that is one of the interesting things about the entrepreneurial process. And as I said, I think our world, a lot of things in the world are a little bit like that complex line on the left. We've got a lot of complex problems that we have to try and resolve. And entrepreneurship will help us do that. Now, I'm going to make a few observations, and then we'll have a few more comments. Entrepreneurs often struggle to go from left to right. You may see a problem, you may have lots of good ideas, but figuring it out, as many of you said, taking it to reality in a way is a challenge. And we're going to talk more about that. And so that is a big part of the entrepreneurial journey, the entrepreneurial mindset, the entrepreneurial challenge is taking a problem and then coming up with a solution, moving from left to right. Can anybody think of when do you want to go from right to left? Anybody got an idea? Do we ever want to go from right to left? Mahi?
Well, I'm a little bit ambiguous about this answer, but when you talk about right to left, I tend to presume that right means that we got this like final idea, whereas the left is like we're still kind of unsure about what we're going to do with the idea, and that those clashes are just inevitable. So I think right to left means that you're going back to square one, making a personal visual checklist in your mind, thinking about have all those aspects been covered, has the practicality, has the customer engagement, everything been sorted out, and going back to square one and reviewing all of those things. I think that is what right to left is all about.
Okay, thank you. That's great. And I think you've got some really good ideas there. Ananya, you also wanted to comment.
Right. So I feel going left to right. So suppose you have an idea which goes well for like quite some time, and then with the changing times, modern technology, because every day that now is if like new ideas come up each day. So if that the initial idea does not involve any alteration or innovation, I think it becomes messy.
Yeah, and you're right, Ananya, because one of the challenges, as I said, one of the challenges for entrepreneurs is to go from left to right. One of the challenges for large companies who may already have a solution, already have a product, many large companies get their challenge is often to go from right to left because they have to ask new questions and innovate and embrace the new opportunities. And so the line is also interesting going from right to left. Both things are important in the process. We're going to take one more comment, and I think we'll have to keep going. So I'm going to ask Shiv, because Shiv hasn't commented yet. Shiv, what would you like to say?
Yeah, like if we have a successful business going on, but after some years we think that we need to market a new product, or we want to create something new, then we have to start from the scratch again and think of the ideas, then the process how to do it. So we have to go back to the messy part.
That's exactly right. So I think you're making really good observations, everybody. Thank you. And this is why I like the line very much. Okay. Let me talk a little bit now about what this line represents in terms of our mindset. There are two major components to this line, or to this process of creativity. One is what we call on the left divergent thinking. Divergent thinking, and you may know the word diverge, is to go in some different directions. So divergent thinking opens up our questions. It asks new questions. It has ideas. It's ideation. It's exploring. Diverging is going from right to left because we're asking new questions. We're embracing the problems. To converge is then to make a choice. We've had a lot of ideas. Now we make a choice. And then converge is to focus in. And so converge is going from left to right. So here you can say, one of the things we often do in entrepreneurship, we diverge, create ideas, ask questions, and then we converge and make choices. And sometimes we have to do that a few times, don't we? The key thing in terms of the mindset is to develop the skill to do both and to continue doing both. Get really good at asking new questions, at embracing the complexity, and then also get good at making choices. And then analyzing those choices, and if you have to, ask more questions. So this process, this cycle, the right to left, the left to right, is the constant process of the entrepreneurial mindset. And you're right, Smahi, we shouldn't be afraid. We have to embrace these things. Yes. Now let me talk to you a little bit about a few games to put this into some perspective. I'm assuming some of you might play chess. Not many, some people don't play chess anymore, but I know that some of the great chess players have come from India. What sort of game is chess? Well, chess has been around for about 1,000 years, and some of you know it very well. But it's very interesting that chess has not changed for centuries. It's amazing, isn't it? You can go back for years and years, it's still a great game. What sort of game is it? Well, it's got very stable rules and resources, right? All of these pieces have been the same for centuries. Even the rules haven't changed. You know, the little piece can go 1, 1, 1, and some of the pieces go diagonally, and some of them only go straight or sideways, and so it's very rules governed. It's also a game which is linear. I make a move, you make a move. I make a move, you make a move, right? And so chess is also a very ordered, organized game in that way. What else about chess? Chess is also a game of equilibrium. Look, it's equal. We've got the same pieces, we've got the same board, we've got the same rules. It's also transparent. I can see everything that happens. I can't see what you think, but I can see a lot. So chess is a fascinating game because it is relatively, it's got a lot of rules, it's relatively transparent, it's just the complexity is so interesting. Now, this is one reason why the best chess player in the world now is, of course, a computer. Because chess is a computational game. Now, in the past, we used to play industrial chess. We had rules, we had large fixed resources. You could see what was happening. Competition was like, you move, I move. The world was a more stable, in a way, a little bit more stable. And business, and in a way, society, was a bit more like playing chess. It was linear. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. It wasn't like the entrepreneurial line. Things were much more organized than in previous worlds. But then along came the age of computing. This is now 50 or 60 years ago, before you were born, and it changed everything. And so now, we have Apple, the first Apple Mac, the first Apple computer, and now we've got a different game. This is a different kind of game. We're not playing chess anymore. This is more like playing cricket or hockey or something. And I have to tell you, I come from Australia. I'm Australian. And as you may know, Australia has the best women's cricket team in the world right now. So let's look forward to more good battles on the cricket field. But cricket is a dynamic game. It's not like chess. One side could be there all day or for 2 days, right? And the other side might get out very quickly. It's also non-linear in that sense, right? There's no exact prediction about what's going to happen when. Almost, but not completely. It's a game of great agility. It's mental, but it's also very physical. It's tactical. Computers, it'll be a long time before robots play cricket. And it's also a team game, unlike chess, which is just one-on-one. Chess, football is, cricket rather is a team game. And so this is a different kind of game, and you never give up. All right, I'm looking at the chats. Great comments, everybody. Now, the thing about cricket is that cricket is a little bit more.
Okay, we are in the world of technology, so these things are bound to happen, but hopefully we'll have Professor Bryant with us. Till that time, I would love to hear some comments. Yeah, Professor, you're back.
Right. I'm very sorry. I don't know what's wrong with the connection. It's usually very good. So So we're now more like playing cricket in the world. But it's not only that, things are changing again. Now we've got the age of mass digitalization. And now, of course, the world is changing radically again. You know, we're getting factories that are fully automated. We've got artificial intelligence in our phones. And it's just flooding. It's going on and on and on. So, are any of you playing online games? Are any of you gamers? Probably a few people. Probably a few people are gamers. Now, what is it about the gaming world? Well, in the gaming world, rules change. I mean, it's a long way from chess and even from cricket, because in the gaming world, the rules change. They evolve, and you get new versions. It's also globally networked, isn't it? You could be playing with 1,000 people who are logged on from all over the world. You may not know them very well. Some you will, some you won't. It's also a game of hyper-learning. In chess, you can learn the rules, and then you just have to get really, really good at using those rules. Even in cricket, you learn the rules, and then you develop your skills. In this world, you've always got to keep learning, because the rules can change, the games can change. So this is a different kind of world, isn't it? And this is the kind of world that we're in today. This is a world where our mindset needs to be agile and adaptive and open to constant change. So you can see the world is shifting. And I've used the games as an analogy to describe the way that business and even society is starting to change. More dynamic, more complex, more interesting in some ways, a world of constant change and learning. Super interesting. And this is the world where the entrepreneurial mindset is so important and also brings a great advantage. Because the entrepreneurial mindset is good for this kind of world. I hope you can see the connection. That the entrepreneurial mindset of innovation, of risk-taking, of opportunity, of being open to change, of being ready to do something new is the right mindset for this kind of world. Now, of course, we know that we don't like to make mistakes and we don't like failures. That's not so good. But what does every problem or failure also offer us? What can it also be? Opportunities.
A chance for
Absolutely. You're right. And this is the reason why when we see problems and complexities in the world, the entrepreneurial mindset says, no, I don't give up. I embrace this as a potential opportunity, or at least something that could be a really good opportunity, like Muhammad Yunus did when he saw those poor women who needed just a little bit of money. And he saw this as a problem, and it became a huge opportunity. And of course, the same thing for great entrepreneurs. Edison, he invented the light bulb, and he had to try again and again and again to find the right material to make the light bulb. And he said, I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that don't work. He had to try 10,000 experiments. Imagine that. 10,000 experiments to find something that worked as a light bulb. And he persisted. And of course, he became super successful and a great entrepreneur. That's the spirit. Now, the thing is, as I said earlier, that large companies often struggle to embrace opportunity. And some of you will have heard of Kodak, this company that was one of the largest companies in the world for many years. And they used to make film for cameras. And I don't know if any of you probably haven't used that. You probably some of you may not have even seen it. But back in the old days, we used to have to take these little rolls of film and put them into our cameras. And then you may know that after you finish taking the pictures, you have to take it out and take it to the shop. And then a week later, you would get your photos back. I don't know if anybody's ever done that, but that's the way we used to do photos. What happened to Kodak? Does anybody know? You can mute and speak if you do.
The technology of the films changed, so it got out of business.
That's right. You're right.
They weren't able to adapt to the moving and constant changing world.
Exactly. Along came digital. And within a short period of time, Kodak was out of business, in great trouble, and Sony and other, especially Japanese companies, took over the camera market, took over the world with their digital cameras. Wow. And it happened so quickly. Now, do any of you use one of these? How many of you use one of these when you take your photos? How do you take your photos?
DSLR.
I think probably many of us use our smartphone, right? Yeah. Do any of you have a Sony smartphone? Probably not. Kodak missed digital, and maybe Sony could have been a Samsung. We'll never know. What is interesting is, as I said, large companies find it very difficult to go from right to left. Along comes change, along comes disruption, something new, they find it difficult. And that's why entrepreneurs like Apple, Steve Jobs, and Samsung, which was started by an entrepreneur, and others like Infosys. That's why large, great companies can take over, because they're the ones who prepared to embrace the uncertainty. They didn't see a problem, they didn't see an obstacle, they weren't afraid. They embraced the change, said, let's try to do something new. This is the mindset. Now, one of the things that before I talk a little bit about some risks that we have to think about, but what does all this say about the entrepreneurial mindset? Where is it useful? Where is it really important to have an entrepreneurial mindset? Did anybody want to think about what sort of business? Where do we need entrepreneurial mindset? Mahi again. Yes.
Professor, I think probably we're losing touch with our societal aspects and different environmental aspects as well. So maybe we can use technology and our entrepreneurial mindset to have, look into the humanitarian aspects probably and do something about that.
I agree with you. So I think we face many problems in the world, whether it be health, the environment, education, and I think entrepreneurs like Muhammad Yunus are making a huge, huge contribution and a difference. And I think what you're pointing to, Smahi, is the fact that we need the entrepreneurial mindset everywhere.
Yes, sir, my point exactly, because wherever we can find a conflict of ideas or, breach to human rights, I think that those are the areas where our entrepreneurial mindset really can create the biggest difference. So I think that's one thing. For example, nowadays, because of COVID-19 and all, I think fitness has been a very concerning aspect. So maybe we can use entrepreneurial mindset to engage people in more fitness through technology and all of those different integrations that we have.
I agree. And so I think my point to you is that we often think that the entrepreneurial mindset is all about starting up a new company and doing startups. And it is very important for startups. It's really important. But my point to you is that the entrepreneurial mindset is increasingly important everywhere. Large companies, even governments, many organizations are looking for people with an entrepreneurial mindset because they know how important it is for growth and for change and innovation. So what I'm saying to you is the entrepreneurial mindset is great for doing startups, and I love it, but it's also going to be really important for everybody as they try to deal with change and opportunity. So I want to talk about a few of the risks we need to also think about in our mindset. Now look at this for me, look at this image, and please look at the bar in the middle. You can see there's a bar that goes across the middle of the object, right? And look at that bar. And my guess is that it's almost impossible not to say that the left side looks lighter than the right. Yeah, is that how it looks to most of you? That the left side, yep. Well, guess what? I'm going to take the back away. It's the same. What's different then? Why does it look different there and then it looks different now?
Because of the background color.
Exactly, Shiv. It's the background. The point is, we see things based on the assumptions we have about the background. We make assumptions about context. That's why Kodak saw a problem and Sony saw an opportunity, for example. My suggestion is to train yourself to look beyond the obvious background. Try to recognize and see things in a new way. See things in a new way. And you might see it differently. Rihanna, a comment.
Yeah, I think it's also because of bias, like having a bias of your own and perceiving things as you want them to and not how they are itself.
Yes, that's true. It's related to our biases, which are natural, often quite natural. Yes. Now, also, look at this one for me, and I'm going to read it. A, B, C, D, E. Hey, how's that? I can read. Right. Now I'm going to read the numbers. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And you can see what I've done, maybe. It's the same figure, isn't it? In the top line, it looks like a B. And the bottom, I read it as an 8. And you can see I just played a little game. So what happens is it's the same issue, isn't it? But now instead of perception, it's the way we interpret information based on the context of the information. In one context, something could be interpreted as a risk, as negative. Put it into a different informational context with other information and other inputs, and it could be seen in a totally different way as a positive, as an opportunity perhaps. And so this goes to the fact that we also have to train ourselves to look beyond the obvious information, to gather alternative information, not falsehood, not false nonsense, but different information, new information, especially when we're trying to make sense of novelty and complexity. So again, it's a little bit like bias. We've got to train ourselves to look beyond the obvious. Now, here's something else. Let me introduce you to Maria. Now, Maria is passionate about conservation. She recycles everything. She's worried about global warming. Okay, many of you might say, I'm like that. I really empathize with Maria. So let me ask you what she does as a career. And you don't have to answer me, you just think about it in your own mind. What does she do? What's her job? Is Maria an accountant? Or does Maria work for Greenpeace as an accountant? Now, quickly think in your own mind, which one do I think she is? Is Maria an accountant, or is she working for Greenpeace as an accountant? Now, quick make a choice. Now, I'm not going to go into the detail. Shiv says option 2, Richard says option 2. Great. Smiley says option 2. Look, you are all so normal. Most people choose option 2. Think about it though. If option 2 is correct, is option 1 also correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Both the
Yeah.
options would be
If she's an accountant for Greenpeace, she's an accountant. Now, the logical best answer is option 1, because she might be an accountant for Oxfam. She might be an accountant for the United Nations, Children's Fund. She might be an accountant for, you see what I mean? Why do most people choose option 2? Most people do. And you're all smart. It's a bias. It's called the anchoring bias. And it's all based on my use of the word Greenpeace. Because, oh, she sounds like someone who works for Greenpeace. So you choose option 2. But even over a little bit of thinking, you can say, oh, option 1 logically is a much better answer. And in fact, if option 2 is true, then option 1 must be true as well. It's a simple logical thing. You see what I mean? This is the sort of simple mental bias, the little tricks that our brain plays on us. And we have to really learn to be aware of this so that we don't let it stop us from having an entrepreneurial approach. Now, we all do this. It's normal. Don't feel embarrassed. But we have to be careful. Smahi, I'm going to keep going if you don't mind. We'll have some time for Q&A at the end. Is that okay? Thank you very much, because I am aware of our time. So these are some of the risks we have to be thinking about. How we perceive things, how we interpret information, and then being aware of these little mental cognitive biases and tricks that can easily mislead us when we make decisions and form our opinions. We have to think out of the box and get good at that. And what that means is we have to learn to do 2 quite different things in terms of mindset. We have to develop this mental agility, which is it combines these 2 different things. We have to be good at exploiting the knowledge we have, and we have to be good at exploring novelty and asking questions. It's back to the line, the squiggly line, right? Going from left to right, right to left, and doing both. We have to develop a mindset that is really good at being able to do this thing. That's an interesting comment, Sugan. Let's maybe come back to that in Q&A. Yeah. Now, the idea is we're trying to do these both things together. And in your work, in your studies, you are doing both. You're learning to exploit knowledge, learning the discipline of mathematics or science or in other fields. You're also learning to be creative, to ask new questions and make discoveries. This is great. We all need both. And it's back to diverge and converge. If you're going to develop the entrepreneurial mindset, be good at doing both constantly. And Smahi says, be ready to contradict yourself sometimes in a positive way, to challenge your own assumptions, to think a very creative new thought, diverge. So get good at these 2 key skills. We have a word for this called ambidexterity. I don't know if any of you can write with both hands, or maybe play tennis with both hands or something like that. Many people can do it when they play the piano. It's very interesting. Many of you, I assume, play a musical instrument, and you can do amazing things with your left hand when you're playing the piano or the violin or something. And yet you can't, that's it. Okay. We have a word for this, and it's called ambidexterity. And what we need to do is become ambidextrous thinkers. And fortunately, we've got the skills. Our brains are built to do this. We all have the capacity to be logical, to be digital, to be mathematical, to be systematic. We all also have the opportunity to be creative and intuitive and playful and to dream. The entrepreneurial mindset puts these two things together in an ongoing process of asking questions and then finding good solutions, opening it up, diverging, and then converging. How do we tap into this? Yolaka, that's a great question. We could talk a lot about that. The fact is we're all good at these things. What we need to do is practice them. Practice asking questions, practice diverging, practice bringing imagination into your logical thinking and then bringing your logical analytical thinking into your imaginative thinking. It's a question of practice and of giving yourself the permission often to ask questions. And so this is the core of the entrepreneurial mindset, putting these things together, developing this core skill, which is so important, as I said, for being able to embrace new questions, ask new questions, embrace problems, discover opportunities, and then take them to a solution, which is analytical, clear, and systematic. So developing an entrepreneurial mindset, it's a general way of thinking and feeling. It's really important for startups, but it's also important in many other ways. And it's especially important in today's changing world. So I encourage you to cultivate your entrepreneurial mindset, and you can use it in any career you choose. I believe that moving forward, this will be a key skill in every career and for all companies. And if you're going to launch your own startup, then activate the mindset, put it to work. Now, I've left a few minutes for general Q&A. So Rishi, I'm happy now to open it up and we can have a conversation about these topics and any questions that people may still have.
That's perfect. If Professor, you could stop the screen share, and then it'll be good to see everyone once again with their cameras on. That was beautiful, Professor. I think the presentation was beautiful. The way of speaking and the way you sort of really honed down your thoughts, in such a concise manner was amazing. But at this point in time, guys, again, please do try to switch on your cameras. It's always good. If you want to connect with the professor afterwards on LinkedIn or anything else, it's always good to put a face to the name, right? But on that note, any questions that you guys have on today's webinar, and any questions in general that you might want to ask him? Please feel free to raise your hand, and it doesn't have to be a question, even a comment, anything that you felt that you maybe learned or something interesting that you thought of today. I can probably begin so that it gives you some way of thinking about it. One big takeaway for me would be that when we think of an entrepreneurial mindset, in my opinion, we all are thinking, oh my God, we have to do a startup, right? Like, how do I become an entrepreneur? But I really like Professor Bryant's point that in today's world, it's not just that you can use your entrepreneurial mindset just to launch a startup, right? That's just one way of doing things. But even if you want to work in a large company, for example, when I am looking at interns to join our company, or even people, for full-time positions, I actually look at people who have taken initiative, right? Who have sort of gone outside their comfort zone, have solved problems, maybe worked on a startup before, because that shows me that they have that sort of rigor, they have that initiative and problem solving techniques, which was a big takeaway for me. So on that note, maybe any comments that you guys might have would be great. We'll start off with Smile.
So I had a question for the previous slide you had shown once for the Greenpeace accountant. So you said that both options would be correct to say, but the first one could also be part of the entrepreneurship. So I wanted to ask, what is wrong with saying that no, she was marketing as an accountant for Greenpeace rather than just saying that she was an accountant, because then you're just being more descriptive, aren't you? That's the question I had.
Yes, and it wasn't a wrong answer, Smahi, and it was more descriptive. It's just, it was a logical issue. And my own feeling is that the entrepreneurial mindset, creativity, imagination is still open and friendly to logic and to reasoning and analysis. It's a question of when we use these skills and how we combine them. In that case, there was a clear logical reason to choose option 1, even though 2 was more descriptive. So it was just a simple point to make, but it wasn't a wrong answer. Yeah.
All right.
I see Shiv's got a question as well, Rishi.
I wanted to tell that I actually started a startup last year. It was about social cause and helping artisans of India, but lack of funds stagnated it. But we'll work on it like in the future.
Lack of funds, you said, Shiv.
Yeah.
Yeah. You may know, Shiv, that just for everybody, that there is now a lot of people are investing in what we call social enterprises and social business. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, but the economies have gone down after COVID.
That's true. You're right. It's been a very difficult time.
There is an organization actually called the Ashoka Innovators Republic. I'm not sure if you guys have. I had the privilege of interning there when I was in college,
right.
And it was a lot of fun. And do look at again, social enterprise or social entrepreneurship, something again our world needs a lot of today, right? Yeah. Where you're not just making money for yourself, but for others. But over to you.
And I do know that in India, in and around India, and focusing on India, there are a lot more and more organizations that are trying to fund social entrepreneurs. So do look into that. Yes, there's a lot of opportunity. Anybody who else has a comment or a question?
I had a similar question to as Yalaka, that you did mention to develop new mental skills and mental agility, but how do you do that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Richa. I think the key thing to do is to expose yourself and participate in different kinds of, in terms of thinking skills, expose and practice just different kinds of thinking. Now, part of that may be in your own studies, right? Maybe you're someone who may say, look, I need to develop more of my creative and imaginative skills, perhaps, or something like that. Or then look for opportunities to do that, either in your hobbies or with your friends or in some of your courses. And then look for project opportunities. Like if you're doing projects, try and choose something which is going to give you the opportunity to either be very imaginative or something a little bit more analytical. So I think a lot of it is just practice, but a lot of it is also looking for the opportunities to develop the skills. They're there, but often unfortunately, sometimes our systems tend to put us into single tracks, don't they? You know, and we become separated in our own minds. So try to look for the opportunities to put imagination and analysis together in your own thinking and in your own studies, and practice it. Try to practice.
I would love to add on to that point, Richa, that for me, I think it always starts with something that frustrates you. I think anything, it could be in work, it could be in society, it could be anything really, from the time you get up to the time you sort of go off to sleep. Anything that frustrates you, in my opinion, this is very personal, of course, I want to do something about that, right? It could be, of course, work related if I'm doing something related to work. It could be if I'm in my home, in my colony, and I see something, whether that's, the lighting is dim or something like that. What are the ways to solve that problem? And that's how I think a lot of innovation or a lot of cool ideas come through, right? It's just your way to taking a step back and realizing that, okay, this is big enough to it frustrates me so much that, okay, I'm going to now make that effort to do something about it. So the problem that otherwise you won't be passionate about it either, right? If it doesn't frustrate you enough. But for me, that's how I look at anything that I want to do, is that how much problem it has created for me personally, because that gives me a very personal sort of association with the problem, and then go on solving it. So whether it's in school, whether you're thinking about a social project, whether you're thinking about a business, I think drawing from your own experiences, from your own personal experiences, works really well. And because you're young, you don't have, the more you become older, the more biases you keep having and keeps adding on. So I would say, you guys are at a perfect stage to sort of look at it from a fresh perspective and sort of move forward.
Yeah. Great, thank you. That's a great, excellent. Fully agree with you, Rishi, fully agree. I see Yalaka has something in chat. Yalaka says he wants to be an industrialist, to go into, what's your advice on the journey ahead? What to focus on is impactful. Now, by industrialist, I think, we're talking about doing something in large industry and growing a large business in it. I think that's a great goal. That's a wonderful goal. I mean, it's like emphasis. It's great. I would say, going back to Rishi, look for industries where there are really great challenges and some large emerging problems that are going to provide opportunities. Now, there's a lot of those, but look for industries where you think you're going to find positive opportunities for change. Now, some of those, for example, automotive, right? Mobility systems, hugely dynamic industry. Agriculture, the digitalization of agriculture is going to be huge. Environmental industries in it. So look for a space where you think you can find problems that interest you, and also then look for companies where you think you're going to find opportunities to be entrepreneurial. And they could be very large companies. They could be. And then it's a question of putting yourself into a situation where you have the chance to pursue something entrepreneurial, even within a large company. And then you might learn the skills, and then you can go and start your own, perhaps. So that sort of thing, I think, is the way I would start. Look for an industry sector which is promising. Look for a company where you can learn. And you might want to jump in quickly if you find an opportunity that's really, that you can be passionate about. Great goal.
Awesome. Any final comments or questions from you guys? Yes, Smiley, go ahead. We'll take that last comment. Yeah.
So I would just like to say that thank you so much, Professor, for this insightful, thought-provoking session. I learned a lot. I thought mentally a lot about all the things that you kind of introduced to us. So thank you so much for the session. It was really, really helpful to me, because I also plan on starting some type of business or startup. So I think this was a very propitious session for me. Thank you so much once again.
Okay, well, thank you all so much, and good luck with the mindset. I hope you really enjoy exploring that. And my feeling is, as we say, it's your turn to change the world, and the world needs people like you. So all the best. And if you want to reach out, please contact me via email, or I am on LinkedIn too. Thank you so much. It's been a great joy and a great pleasure to be with you. All the best.
Awesome. Thank you so much once again, Professor. I would just request you to stay for a couple of more minutes, just had something to work on. But thank you everyone who joined us, for this amazing masterclass on entrepreneurial mindset. We have another masterclass on how do you really generate amazing ideas, messy ideas, but a lot of ideas. And please do check out the website for these free webinars that are happening in the month of April. We also have some cool programs that you can look forward to. So on that note, have a great week ahead. Have a great break, the holy break, which is probably still going on for a lot of you. And good luck with the new academic session beginning next week for all of you young people. Again, as Professor said, please reach out to him, email us if you have any questions, especially for the entrepreneurs. We have an amazing program called the Ivy Early Entrepreneur Program, where professors like Professor Bryant come in and speak. We'd love to see some of your young, lovely faces out there. Till that time, thank you and have a great day ahead. See you next time. Bye. Okay, on that note, I'm just gonna stop the recording.